Hi, I'm Lauren Hamilton, accountant for therapists. Today I wanted to talk to you about some tax write-offs or tax deductions that you could be missing or that I see therapists miss quite a bit when I'm reviewing their bookkeeping for the year. So I just wanted to go through a few of those so that way you don't miss them as well. So let's hop in. So, when we say tax write off or business deduction, what we're really talking about is just business expenses. And those are the items that you're paying for during the year that are necessary and ordinary when you're running your practice. So, that's from software expenses to office supplies or coaching materials or rent. And those we just want to make sure that you are capturing in the correct way throughout the year. That way, when you are going to estimate your tax payments, you're not paying more or less during the year. We always want to strive to make those payments quarterly as accurate as we can. That way that there's not any big surprises at the end of the year. So let's jump into some of the common ones that I see people miss when I am reviewing their accounting. So the number one thing that I get asked a lot, especially now if you're running your practice out of your home, is home office expense. And there is a calculation that is involved with that. So you definitely want to work with your tax preparer on that and make sure that you are capturing all of those expenses during the year. And that's from, your utility bills, internet, any shared like repairs and maintenance that you might have to do in your office. That's not going to be like remodeling your kitchen. Obviously, that does not count as a home office expense. But if you had to do any sort of, like there was a water leak and the floor in your office was ruined and you had to replace that, that can technically be counted as an office expense because it's in the space that you're working. So, a lot of times this can be a scary one to work through because there are a lot of audit risks and there can be a lot of red flags that the IRS is going to look at when this is added to your tax return. However, it's a legitimate write off and expense, but you just want to make sure that you're calculating all of those things in the correct way in order for it to be legitimate with the IRS. But some of the things that I see missed are like online subscriptions. So if you subscribe to a membership or community group, anything like that, those are legitimate expenses and you can use that on your business expense list. Really, a good rule of thumb is if it supports your clinical skills or professional growth, then those are items that you want to include in your business expenses. Another major write off is software and tech subscriptions. So that's like your EHR platforms, any telehealth software, scheduling tools, payment processors, even accounting software. So if you're using something like QuickBooks or Xero or Wave and you're paying for those softwares, that's a write off. Email platforms, anything like that that you are using to support your practice are legitimate expenses. So, just some of the things that I can see get missed are just annual renewals. Sometimes you might pay for a software in an annual sum. That way, you get a higher discount on the software cost, which is great. But you just want to make sure that you're always capturing that as well. Because it's just a once a year payment, whereas monthly you might capture that more because it's running, as a reoccurring monthly expense. Another major write off is insurance, licenses, and professional fees. So these are, major expenses that you are incurring in your practice, especially malpractice and professional liability. Same with your state licensing fees, especially if you're licensed in multiple states. You want to make sure that you're capturing all state licensing fees. Any other licensing renewal fees are definitely ones to capture. And any professional associations that you're in, whether that's through your state or like through your city or just your area in general, or, national, obviously. But anything like that, you want to make sure that you're capturing to run as a business expense too. And basically, here, anything that's required to legally run your practice, those are legitimate expenses. The next category is marketing and practice growth costs. So, those are like if you have a website, those website hosting fees are going to be legitimate. If you have a domain fee, if you're branding or doing any design work, if you're working with a marketer, or if you're using somebody to like post social media items or anything like that, those are also legitimate expenses. And networking memberships, maybe you're a part of, some groups again in your community that you use to network and get referrals from, those are also legitimate expenses. So really anything that's going to help you find your clients, any expenses that you're using or incurring for those activities are also tax deductible. The last major category, and this does require some strategy, just depending on the way your practice is set up and structured and how you have your personal needs to be met, but would be health insurance and retirement. So, again, like I said, based on your business structure, you might have a couple of different retirement plan options available to you. Most of the time, if you are using one of those, your business can make contributions on your behalf, which is then a business expense. So, and also, the admin fees for those retirement plans can also be a business expense. Health insurance premiums, that's a major topic, and one that I won't get into. Obviously there's a lot of debate about that and all that good stuff. However, insurance premiums are tax deductible, and if you are paying those on behalf of yourself, again, as an owner, that is a business expense. If you have employees where you offer, health insurance benefits, then that's also a business expense. And where I said, about strategy, again, depending on the way you're structured and your income levels and, a bunch of different factors, that's just a good way to try to minimize your tax liability, both on your personal and your business side of things. So maybe you're capturing all of these things during the year, and that's great. I still hear people say all of the time, I'm just overpaying in taxes, and I just don't know how to make my tax liability less. And, the truth of it is that if you are capturing everything correctly, then it may just be, it is what it is, unfortunately. But again, using some of those strategies is like the retirement planning, or just being consistent with your bookkeeping, making sure that you are capturing everything, making sure you have a dedicated business bank account and credit card. Make sure you're not using any personal accounts to pay for business expenses. Same with, do not use your business accounts to pay for anything personal. That gets so messy really quick. So just a good rule of thumb there, and I can't stress it enough. I feel like I say this in almost every video, but do not pay for anything personal in your business accounts. It's, like I said, it's just a headache. So if you're doing that now, I'm not saying or like shaming you or anything for it. People do it a lot. Just make a conscious effort to stop doing that and to use your business account only for business items. Again, thinking about when you get to the end of the year, that is not the time to start planning for taxes. Tax planning is happening all throughout the year. So I like to meet with my clients quarterly and discuss, what has happened in the previous quarter, and look at these business expenses, make sure we're categorizing everything. And if we're not, or if we're missing anything, get that corrected in that time period. So that way, when we do go to calculate the estimated tax payment that you'll want to make for the quarter, it's going to be more accurate. And if you get your estimates up front, like as your tax return is being filed for the year, those are just based off of what you paid last year. So if this year is different, let's say you're making more money this year, then those tax payments are not going to be accurate. And you may have to pay more, but another thing to think about there is if you're generating more income, you're probably generating more expenses. So again, you just want to keep a pulse on your net income during the quarter, so that you're being proactive in tax planning. So, as I mentioned, this is something that I work with my clients on, and I think this is a good practice to implement into your accounting routine. And if you need help with this, feel free to reach out to me. I love working through this because I myself am not a surprise person. So even for my business, I like to do this. I don't like to have big surprises at the end of the year, especially if you feel like you've been doing the right thing all year and then you get to the end and maybe you didn't estimate it quite right, which again, this is an estimate. You have to take into account your entire financial situation, especially if you are filing on your individual return. And you could have a partner or somebody else in your family unit that is generating income that could also go into effect for these estimates. So if you're thinking to yourself right now, I don't know that I'm capturing everything and I don't even really know where to start, that's exactly why I offer a free financial health check. And basically what I do is actually go into your accounting system and look through these items and give you some suggestions on where you might be missing a few things, or maybe things are miscategorized. I'll give you a priority list on the items that I think need to be done sooner rather than later, and then just some professional suggestions because obviously you are not an accountant, and I hear from you all the time that you are not numbers people, and that's great. And that's what I love to do, and so that's what I want to help you with. So if you're interested in that, we will put a link to that in the show notes. If you found this video helpful, please like and share it with somebody who you think would also benefit from this information. Until next time, be well.